There is a new trend in political and economic control of you and me. It is the brilliant idea of the opt-out contract. The opt-out contract is the contract that big institutions try to get you to sign if you don't want to sign their contracts. If you don't want to sign something, that should be the end of that. After all, when did you opt in the first place? But when you refuse to agree to their confusing, risky, and harmful programs and policies, they try to sucker you back in with the opt-out contract as if you owe them something for not joining their program. And it is very deceptive. In that opt-out contract, you were not opting out. You already did that by refusing their offer or program. The opt-out contract is a sneaky way to get you to declare that you should have opted in and agree to pay some penalty or give up some of your rights. So when you refuse to allow the pirate to rob you, the pirate hands you an opt-out contract where you agree to pay him for not robbing you. It's pretty ludicrous. Your refusal is the opt-out. The opt-out contract is a Trojan horse. There are two particularly dangerous ways this opt-out trick is being used that you need to watch out for: the electronic utility meter and vaccinations. The idea is to get you to agree to accept risk and injury in programs that would otherwise be scaled back or banned outright due to their hazards. They know their programs are risky and harmful, and so they can only implement their programs if you sign a waiver of liability for them and agree to not sue them for the harm they know they are going to cause. This is a one-sided contract with all benefit to them and all cost and risk to you. Anything you sign should provide equal benefit to all parties. Nowadays, the contracts you sign have maybe a paragraph of benefits for you and 10 pages of benefits for them. That's especially true of insurance policies. Opt-out contracts do nothing for you and transfer all the power and advantage to the other party. Opt-out contracts are pure poison. Never sign one for any reason. So what are you supposed to do when you're refusing some corporate or government program or policy? They're threatening you and telling you you have to sign for some reason. Always remember that you have right of contract. That is the legal term used to describe the fact that on any contract or agreement, your signature must be fully voluntary and not coerced in any way. If you're pressured into signing or agreeing, your signature and agreement technically have no authority or effect. And legally, there is no contract or agreement if you can show there was coercion or pressure causing you to sign that contract. So your right of contract means that you, and only you, may decide whether you sign something or not, and you may not be penalized in any way for refusing to sign anything. Sometimes we realize after we signed something that we were pressured and we didn't really want to sign it. The law says that within 3 days, you can send a written revocation of the contract for any reason or no reason at all. The law gives you 3 days to change your mind. This applies to everything from a cell phone service contract all the way up to a home loan mortgage contract. But what about that pressure? They tell us that if we don't accept the unsafe and unlawful utility meters, they will shut off our electricity. They tell us if we don't accept dangerous and harmful vaccinations, they will deny us medical services or take our kids out of school or even punish us as negligent parents. Well, there's a solution for this too. If what they're offering involves any risk to you, they must insure you against that risk. So you give them something to sign. You offer them a contract called a conditional acceptance, which they must sign before you sign their proposal. Your conditional acceptance contract says that you will accept their dangerous or harmful proposal if, and this is a big if, they insure you against the risk. Wherever there is risk, you have every right to refuse the offer or receive insurance to cover that risk. You simply require them to sign something in writing where they admit the risks and insure you against those risks before you will accept their program or offer. That means that someone, some identified and responsible individual, must promise to pay all damages for any negative consequences of the program or policy they are attempting to force upon you. So where do you get a copy of that contract? That's easy, freedomtaker.com. Here we are on the home page at freedomtaker.com. Scroll down and you will see some downloadable documents. These are free with no strings attached. We do not save or use your email address or any other information about you. We do not contact you or bother you in any way. This is a charitable public service for your benefit. To protect yourself against unlawful and unsafe utility metering, there are 2 files here with very short names. The file named A2 contains instructions, and A4 is a template for you to edit and print out after you see those instructions. These documents help you resist and refuse harmful and invasive utility metering by telling the CEO of your utility company that he or she must provide insurance against the risk of fire, explosion, unlawful surveillance, and unlawful transmission of radio frequencies on your place of occupancy, and they must agree to that before you will agree to the hazardous and unlawful meter operating at your residence or workplace. Don't worry, they will never agree to pay you for the harm and privacy invasion they are going to cause you with their meters. If they did, their entire industry would be bankrupt within 3 years. They are criminally violating utility customers, and they know it. So when they refuse to insure the damage their equipment will cause to you, you have every right to refuse that equipment. If the equipment they are installing was really not harmful and did not violate your rights, the insurance would cost almost nothing. But electronic utility meters are known to be hazardous and harmful, so much so that no insurance company will provide insurance for any price, because they know that advanced utility metering is a ticking time bomb of damages and litigation. Vaccinations represent a very similar situation to utility metering. Scientific research and statistics have now shown vaccinations to be horribly dangerous and misrepresented by manufacturers, government regulators, and healthcare providers. Millions of people have been injured or killed by vaccinations, and the only reason vaccinations are sometimes mandatory is that pharmaceutical companies have lobbied and paid corrupt legislators to pass corrupt legislation attempting to force the public to purchase and consume their products. The idea of a vaccination that will prevent disease is highly appealing. It's highly political, has caused huge amounts of money to change hands. But the actual track record of vaccinations is a road of tragedy, failure, betrayal, and permanent physical damage to millions of vaccine recipients. Many vaccines are approved without scientific and medical due diligence, poorly regulated, administered to large populations experimentally, and the resulting atrocities are played down by government and media. To make this even worse, corrupt legislators provide unprecedented immunity for vaccine manufacturers and marketers from liability for the millions of lives they have damaged and destroyed. If you are damaged in any way by vaccinations, your lawmakers have said that that is your problem. You are to take all the risk while someone else makes all the money. So the game is rigged. And if you want to protect yourself and your family, you need to take some action. That action is right here in another free download document at freedomtaker.com. If anyone ever insists that you or any member of your family must have a vaccination, tell them with no uncertainty that before you accept any vaccinations, they must sign a promise of insurance and personal responsibility for all negative consequences that may be reasonably attributed to that vaccination at any point in the future. Again, in any situation where risk is involved, you are legally entitled to this protection, and no one may force you to accept a hazardous medical treatment unless they provide full insurance for any possible negative consequences. By the way, your physician's medical malpractice insurance does not cover you from injury by vaccinations, unless, for example, your physician negligently injects you with something totally wrong. As many corrupt laws as they want to pass to force hazardous vaccinations on you and your family, you can still insist that the makers and providers of the vaccines agree to accept full responsibility before vaccinating your family. The people who are pushing the vaccinations are the people who must accept responsibility for the consequences. They have not and will not do that unless you demand their signature on that agreement. And again, vaccine manufacturers and medical providers would be absolutely foolish to sign such a guarantee because they know they put you at risk by vaccinating you. The damage, injuries, illnesses, and deaths caused by vaccinations are in the millions, and most of them are well documented if you care to look them up. Never let anyone vaccinate your family unless you require and receive insurance, which you request with this free download document at freedomtaker.com. There may be other documents and agreements being put in front of you to sign by your employer or some government agency or corporate institution. These two documents at freedomtaker.com show you how to construct a conditional acceptance that they probably cannot sign, and without which they have no authority to force you to participate in their ill-conceived policies and programs. Anyone can ask you to sign something that will ruin your life. And believe me, lenders do that all the time. There is no law that says a contract has to be fair or mutually beneficial. Only you can determine that when you read or write the contract. The documents at freedomtaker.com contain basic legal principles that should be understood and applied by everyone in today's society to protect themselves, because institutions are trying to entrap us and exploit us and harm us daily with all kinds of programs and policies that are designed to take our money, put us at risk, and allow us to be controlled, robbed, or damaged in one way or another. This is not the kinder and gentler world your grandparents grew up in. When corporate or government agents ask for your signature or your compliance, it is a good sign that they are asking you to accept something that is not good for you. If it were, they would not need your signature and authorization. We used to be able to trust our public institutions and corporations. That's no longer the case. Those days have gone. And we have to be a little smarter, a little more skeptical, and we need to take certain actions to protect ourselves and our families. Those actions are pretty simple. Never sign any opt-out contract, and make sure that you're fully insured before accepting any risky program or policy. Of course, usually we don't want to take on too much damage or risk, even when we are insured or compensated for that. If you stand up for your rights and demand reasonable insurance, chances are you will be refused, and you can then refuse the offer as well. You will have to fight. You'll have to fight verbally, in writing, maybe even with legal action. These are institutions who are used to getting away with bullying people. You have to be tougher than they are. You are the one who stands to lose your money, your rights, your health, or your life. If they're putting you at risk without taking responsibility, then clearly you should refuse that offer. If you do not know about the risks and hazards of electronic utility meters or vaccinations, you will be shocked if you do a little independent research on the web. That research could save your life.